Hello guys, and welcome to, this will be our second Speakeasy Sports NBA video. Taking a week off from the podcast, but Marlowe's back. We got Danny again for the video. How have you guys been?
Good, man.
How'd you think of the wrap up of last night, Wednesday, the season? What did you think of those games?
I mean, Lakers, survived, made the playoffs, jumped ahead of the Rockets for the 7th seed, which I think is important for them.
I thought Utah laid an egg.
Yeah, oh man.
What did they score? 70 points? That was 70, but that was by far the season low for them. I think they hadn't scored below 80 points all season. You can't do that. I felt really bad for Al Jefferson out there.
And being a Cavs fan, I had to suffer through the white and gold being down by 24 against the Bobcats at one point and ended up losing. But now that Byron Scott's done, it's time to go into off-season mode for them. But same with you, Marlowe. Your coach is gone. But Danny, your team's still fighting.
My team is still fighting. I think the Celtics have a shooter's chance against the Knicks, and we'll get into that a little bit later.
Exactly. And with that said, we're going to go into our first topic of discussion. We've talked about it all the time on the podcast, Marlowe, about how there's really no team that we can see beating the Heat in a best-of-7 series. But with that said, what team, let's start with the Eastern Conference, because I think we all agree that the Thunder is a team in the West that can overcome the Heat, especially with what we saw last year and what they've learned. But what team in the East do you think has the best chance at dethroning the champs?
I mean, I'm going to stick with the Pacers. I pretty much liked them all year. Paul George has really taken the next step. A candidate for most improved player of the year, clearly. And, I mean, they have the size to beat the Heat. I mean, that's the Heat's one weakness inside. With Roy Hibbert at 7'1", 7'2". And, I mean, as we saw last year, they gave them a run for their money, even though the Heat didn't have Bosh. I still think they have the best chance.
I like that thought. I think the Pacers also match up well with Wade and James, with Paul George, and Lance Stevenson is a gritty defender, so I think that's a good pick. Just for the sake of argument, I'll go with someone else, and I won't pick the Celtics, as even though Celtics should have taken it last year, and they have Avery Bradley back. I'm going to go with Brooklyn. Deron Williams is playing his best basketball he's played since that 62-win season the Jazz had a couple of years ago. He's really turned it around. Brook Lopez there's no answer for him for the Heat. Bosh doesn't have the girth or the base to contest any of his shots. So I think the Nets have as good a shot as anybody. But we'll see what that atmosphere is like in Brooklyn.
And it looks like that teams are starting to force Lopez to shoot outside, but he's succeeding with that 20-footer. So definitely a double threat on offense. If he could just bulk up on defense, which is going to be very important in the playoffs. You see that defense plays probably the most vital role. But you guys mentioned the Pacers, but what do you think without Danny Granger? How much of a problem? I know that the matchup that we see is the height with Roy Hibbert, a player like Roy Hibbert, being that advantage. But what do you think about Danny Granger not being with them?
I mean, they played with them without him. I mean, for the whole season pretty much. He played a couple games, maybe in February or so, and then had surgery. So I feel like they're accustomed to playing with the guys they have. Like you said, Stevenson's really improved this year as well. He's playing the two in the starting lineup. And then off the bench, you got Hansborough, Augustine. Who else they got? I mean, they have a couple guys they can throw at you.
They got a bunch of guys who, guys like Gerald Green, who fell out of rotation. But that's a deep team with a lot of wings that they can throw out there. Just a point on Stevenson. He's not shooting a lot this year, but anyone who knows anything about Lance Stevenson, he's one of the greatest high school basketball players to ever come out of New York State and holds the scoring record. He's a guy who can score, and I think is a real X factor going through in the playoffs. And
he's tough too. I mean, I remember last year he got into some, I guess, a little bit of a skirmish with LeBron and a war of words. So
I think some hand gestures.
And a few with LeBron.
Right. So I think that they're mentally, they're challenged. They're tough, and I think that's what it takes to beat the Heat too.
Most definitely, but a team that really gave the Heat struggles in a 4-game series in the regular season were the New York Knicks. I don't believe the Heat did not score over 100 points the whole time, and the Knicks beat them 3 out of 4. So what do you think? And they didn't go into the postseason with that streak they were carrying, but how do you think the Knicks fare against a team like the Heat?
I guess I'll start here. One of the things we're talking about later is who our X factor is in the playoffs, and mine's Iman Shumpert. He's a guy who, was booed on draft day. Knicks fans were like, "Who is this guy?" And then I saw him play. The city fell in love with the high top fade and the signature rap tracks. But if Iman Shumpert can be the elite perimeter defender that he's capable of, and take Dwayne Wade out of the equation, and make it be all about LeBron James, I think that would go a long way. Also, his offense is coming back a little bit. It was a garbage game last night against Atlanta, but Shumpert played 38 minutes and I believe finished with 20-plus points. He was really efficient. I think he was 7 of 11. That's the guy that they need to get something from, because you know what you're going to get from Melo, and you know what you're going to get for J.R. Smith. But with how depleted that front line is in New York, Melo is your starting 4. You don't have Amari. Camby's not playing. Rasheed Wallace is retired. Earl Barron was their starting power forward last night out of the Philippines League. So I think you need to lean on their strength and those guards, and that's what's going to make it a series. But again, I just don't see anybody beating the Heat.
The Knicks would have to shoot lights out from beyond the arc. With Novak and J. Kidd and Felton. But yeah, like you said, with the injuries, especially to Chandler and Camby and Rasheed Wallace, they don't have much depth at all, inside. So
Kenny Martin's banged up too.
Yeah.
When I see if those teams do match up at some point in the postseason, that I could see the Knicks winning 1 or 2 games from their 3-point shooting alone. But other than that, you need Tyson Chandler at full health, I think, against the Heat, and I just don't think that's going to be a realistic possibility for them. But moving on to the Western Conference, last night, Wednesday, we saw some interesting games. The Lakers ended up playing the last game of the regular season, but it didn't carry a playoff implication. They were already in because, like we said earlier, because of the Utah Jazz loss. But they were playing the Houston Rockets, and they were battling for the 7th and 8th seeds. And game went into overtime after Chandler Parsons' 34-foot-3 sent it. But was that important? Like, how important was that for the Lakers to draw San Antonio instead of Oklahoma City, or is it just going to be an early exit for the Lakers?
I think it was important for them because the Spurs are banged up. Parker's just came back for a couple games. Ginobili played 12 minutes last night in his first game since the end of March. They're banged up, whereas, the Thunder are playing well. They got Durant and Westbrook are 2 of the best players in the league. So I think it was important for them to, avoid the Thunder. But I could see a scenario where the Lakers, give the Spurs a run just because of Gasol and Howard up front is really tough to match up with. And as you saw last night, they shut down Harden, who's, top 5 in the league in scoring. So, I think they'll give the Spurs, a good series.
I think I've got to point out Pau Gasol last night. He put out a rondo on national TV stat line last night with 17, 20, and 11. Who would have seen Pau Gasol doing that? But that's what Pau Gasol is capable of. He's the premier passing big man in the NBA. But I think it was the big reason why that was huge is just the Lakers right now. If Steve Nash isn't healthy, Steve Blake is their leading field goal attempt guy since Kobe went down. So I think if they're gonna make any chance at all, they got to avoid Oklahoma City at all costs, because Oklahoma City is built to beat the Lakers. They have Kendrick Perkins for 3 or 4 years was Dwight Howard Superman's kryptonite. Ibaka may be Pau Gasol's backup on the Spanish national team, but in the NBA, Serge Ibaka is the leading shot blocker in the league, and Pau Gasol's not going to get much off against him. Craig Smith was kind of having his way with Pau Gasol last night, blocking shots. So imagine what Ibaka does in the whole series. And so I think it's really important for them to avoid the Thunder. And like you said, the Spurs are in turmoil, releasing Steven Jackson. course, Theo had back surgery.
T-Mac's back.
T-Mac's back.
It's crazy. He's only 33. He seems like, he's 42 or something.
He was one of the best players in the league only 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, I mean, he was a scoring champ.
He gets signed. What about Iverson?
Yeah, I honestly thought that's who the Knicks were going to sign when Rasheed Wallace retired. But I mean, when you get starting power forwards like Earl Barron.
Yeah.
But you guys talked about how the Lakers shut down Harden on the offense, and Houston's the high scoring team in the league, and they held them to 5 points in overtime and under 100 overall. So that says a lot about where this Lakers team has come from, winning their last 5, going to the postseason hot. But without Kobe, and what do you guys think of D'Antoni's move throughout the season to put Earl Clark in front of Paul Gasol, and what Paul has done now?
Well, I think you're preaching about Lakers' great defense under a Coach D'Antoni, and it seems weird. But I mean, Harden was getting looks last night. He just wasn't making.
He had some open threes.
The pick and roll defense for the Lakers is just awful. But Dwight Howard last night protected that rim, like Dwight Howard of old. On the subject of Earl Clark, I mean, yeah, just good for D'Antoni for admitting he was wrong. But why can't you realize that then? I mean, obviously Gasol and Dwight Howard can play together. I mean, forever in the NBA, it was you tried to put twin towers in there. Like, look at what the Spurs did with Robinson and Duncan. So I just don't understand what D'Antoni's thinking was behind that. But good for him that he's finally using the strength of his roster.
Yeah, I feel like he was kind of outthinking himself a little. I mean, Gasol can play the high post. Like we said, he's one of the best big men in terms of passing, along with his brother. So it just didn't make any sense to me either.
And now moving on to that other series, that OKC-Houston, on the surface, looks right away that the Oklahoma State Thunder know James Harden. James Harden knows the Oklahoma State Thunder, so it looks, obviously Oklahoma City has the upper hand here. But how do you see that play? Like, how's that? That's going to be interesting. So many storylines going into that one. How much different is OKC this season in the postseason than last year? Because without Harden, I think they stand less of a chance of making it to the finals and becoming the champions.
I mean, Durant's taken the next step.
Definitely.
Having a 50, 40, 90 season. Only 8th player to do that. He's been incredible, and if not for LeBron, he'd be the MVP easily. And then Westbrook's continued to develop, and without Harden having the ball, it's just been Westbrook and Durant show, and Kevin Martin just hitting threes. Right. So I mean, I still like their chances. I feel like they're still the top team in the West, and I'm really looking forward to this series. It should be a high scoring series, but I mean,
what do you think Harden's problem was last postseason?
I mean, I thought he played great against the Spurs.
Yeah. But when it came to the Heat,
I think
he got a lot of ridicule, and I think he shouldn't have, because he did play, like you said, against the Spurs. He did play great.
They don't win that series against San Antonio without him.
Yeah, I mean, they're down at 0-2 and won 4 straight. So.
And sometimes shots just don't fall. I mean,
yeah.
LeBron obviously had a terrible finals against Dallas, and that's kind of become out of people's minds. And I think Harden will eventually move past that too. But that's a tough matchup for him against Oklahoma City. It's like you said, they know him, but it's also Oklahoma City is far superior in terms of the talent they've constructed. So
especially on the inside.
Yeah.
And you guys talked about LeBron's failings against the Dallas Mavericks, and then what he changed about his game. I felt like he become that lockdown, shutdown defender last postseason. He became that clutch shooter when it came to crunch time. So with that said, who do you see as that player going into this postseason? Who do you see rising up to the occasion? In my opinion, I think it's Durant. I think it's his time. I think he's ready to seize the moment.
I mean, I think that's a good pick. Just some other guys that have the opportunity to seize that. I would say Carmelo Anthony, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's never made has he made it the second round?
Yeah, in 09, the Nuggets.
In 09, he made the second round, but he's never seized that stage. And if he could defeat the Celtics in a gritty team with it's been there before, and he's got to give them all he can get, and then get into the second round and start making some noise. I think Melo's a proud candidate for that, but